Okay, so this is basically a follow up on Joseph Crickmore's video about what if, one of his other level 99s was summoned instead of May, and he makes pretty good arguments for all of them. I just think that there are a few things that he did forget. This is specifically going to be about Ellie. Ellie and her relationship with Light. He went to talk about how after Ellie wouldn't need the 3 years potentially to get through the dungeon core. I think that is a fine argument. It is logical. The one thing that I do want to put in as well would be that Light running into the Hydra would likely not be at the 3000s that he was at, so he would potentially be at the 9999, because Ellie also brings one of the biggest boons in the entire series directly to Light, especially in the very beginning, and that would be the curse mark, where she summons level 9999 demons, or whatever they are, basically to kill. And this would be given to Light. Whether or not Ellie herself could take these things on, or Ellie and Aoki or whoever comes next in this scenario could can fight it off, is up for debate. If Ellie is skilled enough, she could fight it all by herself. And if this is true, that means Light could blow up in levels. He doesn't have to go through any real struggle, except for, like, hitting level 9999 and actually going through it all. But I don't think this is unachievable, as if Lily in the later arcs, like in volume 7, she was basically, like, didn't allow her to go through that, through the curse mark, to upgrade her levels, because she was not even past a level 100. And in this case, Ellie doesn't have that issue because she still has the snake dogs, or the snake hellhounds. Ellie could simply wait or amplify Light to getting his level at 3000 within a month, which is insane to say, but she could do that. And then she could throw him, essentially protect him, doing the curse mark, if she's brave enough to do it all by herself. And she doesn't have to worry about any gear, because Light himself is the one that gave himself the spear. So a higher level may amplify his chances with better gear faster than what he actually did with Mel or May. So I would say Ellie is actually the best chance for this. And I think that if we're going to go down this route, we would also give Ellie a much larger, I would say, Light would feel more indebted to Ellie. So he would have a higher potential with in pushing the relationship where she wants it, regardless of the problems with that. About the village, it's up in the air. I don't know. We have no idea. Even in chapter or in volume 11, nothing has been stated about the village. Specifically the time of when it was actually burned down. So I think the part with Aoki was fine too. Although it wouldn't be the biggest boom for Light. That would be Ellie, but it would be pretty good. I think the only issue here would be his intelligence would suffer, in the sense of he would be far more magic caster than he is anywhere else. Although, again, not with Ellie, but with Aoki, he wouldn't be that smart. He might gain levels faster, but he may not gain skill. Skill in this verse is hard to quantify. It's more about gear and level. But that's why Ellie is such a big boom. Regardless of the problems that she might bring up. But past that, 100% agree that may actually be the third most hopeful one to actually get in the beginning. Or we might just be completely wrong, and May needed that, May needed to be that first one to put Light at ease rather than being taken advantage of, as Ellie most likely would have. And Aoki, we don't really know a lot about her personality, but it's something to keep in mind. That's the only thing I really wanted to say besides that. I think the idea of Mara or Ice Heat being first also doesn't really help all that much because they're very limited. Of course, none of them have any autonomy, but I don't think Light would ever. I think Light would stay the same that he was with Mel or May, as he wouldn't want to kill any of his actual cards. I just feel like Ice Heat, Suzu, Mera, and Jack would be more emotional help. Maybe. Maybe not Mera. To Light. But that's kind of it. And also, Icy brought it up herself that she might not have done what May did and actually asked Light to produce more cards for his kingdom. She might have been selfish, and that's something that she reflects on. I also think it's we've never seen it, so we can never really be certain about it. But I'm pretty sure the cards are locked at the levels that they are actually summoned. I think the card keepers would be interesting as well, like brother and sister. I don't know how big of a boon they could really give because the cards are still there. So it is their subordinates at the end of the day, rather than the curse mark. So Ellie would technically be the best to summon, and he got potentially the third from the top. I 100% agree with Joseph's answer with Nizuna, as I don't feel like she's just going to bring enough to the table to be as big as a boon as Mel was. Light also does state multiple times that he's a really, really poor swordsman. So that's already a good portion of her knowledge, or should I say, let's say, inheritance. How about that? A good portion of her inheritance will be missed because he's just not that kind of guy, which is fine. Personally, I think swordsmanship is, especially in media, is overblown anyways. Pole arms are much better, except for in self-defense, especially when it comes to like within like citizens or like self-defense. Outside of that, blades don't really, get in there. And we don't really know what light would really give when it comes to like an actual like halberd or anything like that, because we've just never really seen it. We have seen the spear, but with the Gundar, but that's kind of it. I wonder, in this circumstance, with Ellie being the first one and with the curse mark, would he get even more Genesis or mythical grade weapons? Currently, they have around 8, with the Gunner included. So, by this logic, would we get more mythical and Genesis class? Because if that was true, Ellie would be the biggest of boons, especially of how quickly this would go. And ultimately, it would depend on whether or not she's confident on fighting back the monsters herself or not. If not, that's just 3 more months to wait. I think I also agree that Ellie probably would be a much deeper well of knowledge about magic, specifically what light focuses in, especially in this circumstance. I think it's a fun discussion. Multiple characters do actually bring this up themselves. I think it's worth talking about. I've just never really had a reason to bring it up myself. I've actually known unlimited gacha, you know the rest of the title, level 99 unlimited, for actually a long time. I want to say I want to say about, man, I don't know, at least 6 years. Gotta be. Gotta be at least 6 years. Because I remember changing an air filter and reading that title. It wasn't that ridiculous title. It was just a more it just sounded really interesting. It was like, oh, that's interesting, because you could just spam that good stuff. I was like, huh. It was actually a really fun read, and that's why I kept up with it. And then I read the four novels for like a good bit of time. But eventually I just, got bored and went to different series, and how it is. But then, then, then another channel uploaded a bunch of this series at up to like chapter 9. And that was a fun read. There's not really... I think it's a fine story as well. I like how Light is... And I don't know, maybe he would have got his revenge. Maybe his revenge wouldn't actually be anything more than his party mates at that point with Ellie. It would strictly just be the Masters, because he could bring his family down. Or maybe he can just keep a guard up in the town. I think it's a fine discussion. I think it's more than likely everything kind of works out basically like that. Nobody really does much better than May or Ellie. Everybody else is just kind of meh. Oh, with Aoki, he could have actually had a bigger army, giving her even more beasts, potentially even stronger ones, like, let's say, not necessarily Farron, but the 9,000s, just a bunch of them. I think it'd be, or it could be like the Iron Fortress crab, or like the spider at 6,000 and 7,000. So we would just have like dozens of these monsters at these really high levels. Ultimately, it wouldn't change much, because the main ones that we would be looking at would still be the 9,000s. But it's an interesting discussion. In this series, it's kind of hard to gauge skill, so we would go off of levels more than anything. It sucks that the cards can't go any higher, but yeah. Ultimately, that's my response to Joseph. I didn't really want to scale the series, because we basically have everything from Mach, Lightning, including the anime. It blatantly brings it out. So now we have Lightning at 1,800. That's ridiculous. Although it was always weird to see Jack and Fenra throwing around attacks that, break the sound barrier. And she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. I think with the Volume 10 and all that stuff with light, the speed of light came out. And it was just, it really broke it. It really broke the scale. The strength is just kind of hard to say, but that's, that would basically be it. Maybe Light would be an even better fighter, but that's all just speculation. Thanks for watching.